Sammy Thaiday, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
I was going to say, I saw you come in this morning, and bro, you look so clean and fresh right now. You got a little fade, the beard's looking really nice. Oh my God, man.
I'm not actually, I won't apologise. I appreciate your patience in waiting for me. But yeah, I did have to duck in and get a bit of a trim, mate. I had to look good because I know you're always looking good, looking fresh. So,
mate, I'm hanging on for dear life. I see you come in. And for those who are listening to the podcast and not watching, Sammy is looking really great at the moment. We've got some beautiful kicks on, Nikes. The hat's looking good, but you're looking great. I love that you're here, man. This is going to be so much fun.
It's very matchy today. So
yeah. Mate, I think there's so many angles of this conversation that I'm really keen to dive into, like especially like the transition out of professional sport, your journey through the Bronx and in the NRL. But I think a really fun and like probably a great way to start is growing up. Like, what did growing up in the Thaiday household look like?
A lot of fun. I'm one of 5 boys, so there's always someone to play sport with. There's always someone to fight with. But as a kid growing up, my oldest brother, Muzza, he was adopted, so he come to live with my parents. Just got married, and through traditional Torres Strait adoption, he came to live with them as a 10-year-old. It's a kind of a weird concept that not a lot of people understand, and sometimes I struggle to wrap my own head around it. But Muzza was promised to my dad when he got married that his cousin was going to give her first son to my dad.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and I don't see him as a cousin. He is my brother, Muzza.
Yeah.
And then I also have my second youngest brother is also adopted as well. So
gotcha.
My youngest brother Eli was born. He was 6 months old, and Dad went up to the Torres Strait for some family business, and then ended up coming home with a 1-year-old. So my mum had this 1-year-old and a 6-month-old, and she kind of raised them as twins. And my second youngest brother, Auda, being a full-blood Torres Strait. He's a lot darker than
gotcha.
the watered-down versions that I am and my brothers are.
Yeah.
And then I've got the 2 brothers by birth, in Reuben and Eli as well. So we had an awesome little upbringing. Both parents were in the Air Force. Lived in some defence housing when we were young. Grew up in Townsville. And my dad, huge inspiration for myself, actually. So young fella from the Torres Strait, wanted to go and do something different. Joined the Air Force, was in the Air Force for 21 years, retired, went to university, became a school teacher, taught for a few years, retired from teaching, then went into the education system, teaching teachers how to teach Indigenous curriculum. So
wow, man.
Huge inspiration. And Mum's very similar. So Mum's one of 4 girls, grew up in a farm in Western Australia, did not want to take over the farm duties.
Yeah.
It was hard enough as a young girl growing up in the shearing sheds. So she probably learned how to fight, learned how to swear, learned how to do all those things in the shearing sheds.
Yeah.
But she also joined the Air Force to for something different, something new as well. So that's where they met down in New South Wales. They were down at Wagga Wagga, based out of there. And we got posted to Townsville when I was a young fella. Though, if you do Google me, it does say I was born in Sydney.
Gotcha. Really?
Yeah, which is true.
Yeah, on a technicality.
Yeah, on a technicality, yeah. But I did all my growing in Townsville. So 4 years of age, Dad was posted to Townsville, and that's where I learned how to play footy. And that's
Do you think having so many brothers, because obviously, like, I imagine that's probably a pretty competitive environment, like boys playing up, like you said, you learn how to fight, you learn how to play footy, you did all of that.
Yeah.
Was that an experience that probably like led you into sport, do you think?
Yeah, Mum was pretty open to allowing us to play any sport we wanted to, actually. So, they were the main gifts and presents come Christmas time, come birthdays, was sporting equipment. Yeah. I think they both probably regretted that after a little while when there was holes in the house and in the fibro because we couldn't just have a tennis ball to play cricket. We had to have a real cricket ball.
Gotcha.
My brother Reuben was super talented at a lot of different sports. So I remember he made the Queensland baseball team, Queensland soccer team, Queensland futsal team. Also really, really successful at a state level for athletics as well. So a bit of a gun and a kind of a hero and someone that I really looked up to as a young young kid as well. Only 2 years difference between us, but I was chasing his tail all the time. So again, that competitive nature. I was always the goalkeeper. I always had to be the bowler. I always had to be the pitcher.
Yeah.
And Ruben was also that brother that, oh, no, I'm done now. I'm out. So, no, let's go.
It's
let's
like,
go.
man, stick around. I want to have
What
a
about
Batman. I think that's so interesting because I'm a younger, I've got an older sister, and same thing. She was always in like the Queensland, always in the representative teams. And I'm like, well, I want that. You know what I mean? And even to the sense of like, we weren't allowed to wear their representative clothing. Like, you could only wear it unless you made the team.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting.
I wasn't even like allowed in my brother's room, touch his medals, nothing like that. Like you talk about not being able to wear their gear. I remember Ruben was doing some odd jobs and some chores and stuff and saved up some money and brought some Jordans once. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, can I borrow them? Can I borrow them? No, don't touch them. Don't even go in my room. Yeah. One day, he was gone and I borrowed them and I scuffed them.
No way.
Yeah, and I was absolutely packing the dacks. I thought it was going to be on, but super forgiving, so I appreciate that.
We love, we got that brotherly love. Man, I want to fast forward to when you thought it was possible to be in the NRL. Like I imagine you're probably a pretty talented kid coming through, did all the rep teams. But when you came in, when was the moment when you thought, oh, actually rugby league could be a career? Like what did that look like?
Well, I had a little bit of a different journey. So for such a long period of time, so from the age of 6 to 12, I did little athletics. And I was like, I'm going to the Olympics. That's what I want to do. Like I was pretty keen. I was a bit of a thrower.
I was going to say shot put and discus.
Yeah, shot, disc, jav. I still have a 60-meter hurdles record under eights. Upper Ross Pandas, we were called.
Gotcha.
And that club ceased to exist now, so that record will stay forever.
Wow.
Yeah. But due to finances and the club folding, we kind of finished athletics at the age of 12. Ruben was about 13 or 14. And then we both had to choose different sports. And then all of Ruben's mates at school were playing soccer. And so he went and played soccer. And then all my mates at school playing league. So I just started playing league at 12. And I wouldn't say I was super successful in making rep teams every year. And I made the Townsville district team a couple of times, made the North Queensland team, but wasn't until I was probably 16, 17, until I made my first Queensland team.
Gotcha.
I can remember a real kind of turning point for me was in high school. I had a teacher by the name of George Bartlett. He played for the North Sydney Bears, finished his career at the Cowboys, and then was a PE teacher then at Kerwin High School. And grade 10, pretty keen on leaving school. Wasn't the fondest thing for me. Like really struggled to read and write. A lot of my subjects, even at that point in time, were leading me down a career path of probably getting a trade. Was doing like a building construction course at school. Was doing graphic design. I was doing metalwork. I was doing woodwork. So something with my hands, lifting heavy things.
Yeah.
And funny enough, like. We got in. We were in a program at school, with the Rugby League Excellence program at Kerwin High School, and we went down the beach one day. We were doing some tackling practice at the Strand, and you think the beach in Townsville, like you think, oh yeah, it's the beach. This is river sand.
It's not the Gold Coast, bro.
This is not the Gold Coast. Your
No.
feet do not squeak when you walk in the sand.
Yeah, man.
You're lucky to not stub your toe on a rock or something when you walk on the sand up there. So. Us doing tackling practice.
Imagine tackle practice there, man.
Yeah, you wonder why North Queensland's are tough? Because that's what we do. We do tackle practice at the Strand.
Yeah.
And it got a little bit hot and heated, and I tried to fight my teacher at that point in time, and George Bartlett, and he kind of called me on, and like every brave 15-year-old at that point in time, I said, let's go, let's do this, and then ended up running away crying, full of emotions and full of hormones, as 15-year-olds are.
Yeah.
And it wasn't probably till the next day that George came and found me, and he sat me down and had a chat, and he apologised for how things went, and I apologised as well. And he just said to me, like, you've got a real chance and opportunity to do something. He said I was super talented, and if I applied myself, I would have every chance and opportunity to play professionally. And then he came up with a solution to the problem that I was having, and he said, I'll show up every day that you show up and train. And, you know, in hindsight, I look back, he had to show up because he had the key to the gym to open the gym, and you know, so it's like, oh, you tricked me on that one. But it was good because every morning I was there at the gym, he was there at the gym, and he became like a little bit of a weights partner for me. We did some stuff in the gym, we did some extra stuff out in the field, and the following year I came back to school, and this is leading into a grade 11, and I made the senior squad that year, so played in the Opens. That year we lost the state final to Palm Beach Currumbin.
Hell of a school, man.
And then the following year, leading into grade 12, you know, my goal was to make Australian schoolboys, and just fell short of that. And again, lost another state final. So I'm 0-2 when it comes to state finals. We lost to Wavell High that year in 2002. So if it wasn't for George, and George really pushing me, but then also showing up for me as well, you know, I probably wouldn't have even applied myself the way that I applied myself. And it taught me some really good lessons. And I think also not making a lot of those teams as well taught me a lot of great lessons as well, just to be patient and just to keep on toiling, essentially.
That's what I got from that. Like, obviously, like with George, like that lays such a great foundation of hard work, right? Obviously, like naturally hard work, I think you have to be to play in the NRL. But when you don't get picked in the Australian schoolboys team, or when you lose a state final, that's got to give you so much more extra drive and determination to be like, no, I do want to get there, and I do want to play in the NRL. Do you find that?
In looking back on it now, it kind of worked out perfectly for me. So I don't make the Australian schoolboys. I come back to Townsville, and then I get a phone call from, must have been, I'm trying to think, might have been Kelly Egan at the time, and he's called me up and said, oh, we would love for you to come down and play for the QAS. We're a couple of guys short. We've got a game on the Sunshine Coast. We're playing against the AIS. I was like, oh, yeah, sweet. That'd be awesome, all time. And Wayne Bennett had so much to do with the QAS at the time. So he was a part of the junior pathway through, and he got the chance to come and watch me again. So the story goes, he first saw me play under 17 State of Origin at the old ANZ Stadium. We played against the stacked New South Wales team. They had Sonny Bill Williams. They had Keith Galloway, Tom Leroy Lars. Who else? They had Liam Fulton. They had all these guys like who, you know, went on to play first grade footy, but they absolutely hammered us. They won the game. We won the fight. At the end of the day.
Yeah, you still got that dog.
Yeah. So Wayne saw me play in that game, and, you know, I stood pretty tough. I think Paul Aton, myself, and Neville Costigan were the three guys in the Queensland team that went on to play any first grade footy. And then I got the chance to play against Tommy Leroy Lars again. So Tommy was the Broncos' big signing, as that he was that next young gun coming through. They'd gone down to Tamworth. They chased him hard, and they secured his signature, and he was coming to the Broncos. And I got to play against him in the AIS. And then first kickoff, playing front row, handed off to me, and I almost ran 100 metres and scored a try. So it's like,
awesome, man.
And then it wasn't long after that, then Cyril Connell and Paul Bunn coming up to Townsville, and I'm signing a contract in the car park of the Cowboy Stadium. So it's just like, yeah, I didn't make the team that I wanted to, but another opportunity arose from me not making that Australian schoolboys team. And then I think what happened then too is I also got the jump on some of those guys as well. So the Australian schoolboys tour was in November. So when school had finished, we'd all graduated high school, and then they did this little tour overseas. And what I did is I graduated high school. I came straight down here. November 1, I'm in Brisbane. I've started preseason, and I've got 3 weeks of training under my belt already. And what had happened was, just from being down here training my ass off, I'd already got the tap on the shoulder from Kevy, who was coaching reserve grade at the time. So I'd already jumped from the Colts squad into the reserve grade squad. And the guys that were overseas playing in the Australian schoolboys team, they were already chasing me then. So many kind of things happened off the back of not making things. I just had to be patient. I had to wait my time.
Sounds like everything happens for a reason, yeah. And that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Now you're in the NRL. Obviously, you came in. I'm sure there's probably a lot of guys that you looked up to coming into the Bronx. Who are the guys that you looked up to, and what did they do for you in terms of being a role model, or even just like a shoulder to talk to?
I think the first guys that were there when I first came down, who I really looked up to, were you, Gordon Tallis's. Andrew G was still at the club. You got to think, this was 2003. He was a foundation player. He was there in '88. So it was awesome to still have him around at the club. He was my first captain, actually. I debuted in 2003 as an 18-year-old kid, and he was a captain. Ran us out. We played against the Bulldogs, 11th of July 2003, Suncorp Stadium, and I ended up getting injured in that game, but that doesn't matter. I had a taste and I wanted more, but I had some great mentors like your Petro Silvasivas. You had Shane Webke. Like they were the big dogs, but even those next guys underneath them, you had Dane Carlaw, Brad Myers, Corey Parker. You had Carl Webb. All those guys were at the club, and they were the next kind of big dogs that were going to come through, and I was, nipping at their heels. So there was some real layers to our squad at that time, and it was hilarious. Every time I went back up to Townsville to play against the Cowboys, the Townsville Bulletin, front page, back page, the kid that we let go, the kid that got away. But I wouldn't have had the career that I had if I didn't move to Brisbane, if I didn't have the hardship of moving away from family at the age of 17, coming down here, having to work hard, having the ability to be coached by Wayne Bennett and Kevin Walters, having the ability to be mentored by some of those guys who'd been around the game for such a long period of time. No disrespect to the players that were at the Cowboys at the time, but they weren't of the standard and the quality of the people that were in and around that Broncos organisation. Yeah. So, it's an hilarious joke now, and I always bring it up anytime I speak about it. I would have loved to play for the Cowboys. Yeah, I would have. But I still don't think I would have had the career I had.
You talked about the role models that you looked up to. You talked about Wayne. What's probably the biggest learning that you got from those guys?
Wayne was really good at letting me be myself, and I think Wayne always likes to have one larrikin in the squad, and I think he and I had a bit of a good relationship where I could kind of read him and he could kind of read me, in the sense of if Wayne was getting too serious, I knew what to say in a team meeting to try to break that seriousness up. Yeah. But then a lot of the conversations I had with Wayne, he never ever put me on show in front of everyone. Unless I needed it, unless the team needed it as well. So a lot of my conversations with Wayne, if he needed to pull me in the line, were one-on-one, face-to-face, in his office. And I think, those things really helped me out as well. So if I knew if he was going to discipline me in a team meeting, I knew that shit was serious.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I needed to pull my head in, or I needed to do something better, or I needed to train harder. But a lot of the time, and I think that's the beauty of Wayne, and it probably comes from him being a police officer as well. Yeah. As a police officer, I need to kick the door in, and I need to know that I'm coming at you hard. Yeah. I'm gonna have to wrestle you. Yeah. Because you're gonna be hard work. This guy over here, I can ask him to leave nicely. He's going to be fine. The guy over there, he's going to be really emotional. I might have to give him a hug. You're not in trouble. You just need to exit the room. So I think that ability to read people comes from being a police officer, because he knew with all the players which players he could kick in the ass, which players needed a little bit more comfort and a little bit more of a softer talking to. Yeah. And he knew the timing of it as well.
I remember, because obviously that's why Wayne has so much respect, right? From all his playing group, he gets the boys. Do you remember when we were at Bronx? I think when I first came in, I must have been 18 or 19. I was so young, but I had my motorbike, and Josh Maguire, he was riding his motorbike in at the time as well. And so I was just if Moosey can ride his in, surely I'll be able to ride mine in. And so I'm sitting off to the side, because your main players have their own lockers, and if you're an under 20, you sort of sit off to the side a little bit.
We used to have the islands in the middle.
The islands, the Fiji. Yeah. I was talking to Jordy Carr yesterday, and he was talking about the islands when he first came in, man.
Don't worry, we've all spent time on the island.
You all got to get on the islands, man.
And I'll tell you this, when I first came, and it was as we kind of got older, it was go up to the service station and get me a Coke and a Chocky. Yeah. When I was a young fella coming through, we had the old thermos with the styrofoam cups and the Nespresso, and we were making it. And so I'd have Andrew G and say, make me a coffee. I want 2 scoops and 2 sugars. No milk. Don't worry about it. I'll be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Burning your hand in the styrofoam cup. So.
But this was the thing. This was the thing with Wayne. I remember I was sitting off to the side and he comes in. He's like, "Who's effing motorbikes outside?" And Moose wasn't there. And I was like, "Oh, it's mine." Like, and I was a young kid shitting myself. And I was just like, "Oh, it's mine." He's like, "You better sell that effing thing or you won't effing be here the following week." And I was like, "Done. Next week, sold." Like, I was going. But that's such a perfect example of Wayne just like. He probably knows like when to put you on show, right? And he knows when to pull you in.
Yeah. Well, in Wayne doing that, he sets the standard for everyone then, and everyone knows now. Oh, okay. Well, I can't have a motorbike.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't care so much about Moose and if he crashed or not, because Moose is bloody made out of rubber, and he's got teeth missing, half an eye, and all those things. He's just like. Moose is like a cane toad that has the ability to suck his guts back in after he's been run over and just keep going.
Yeah. He's looking very jacked at the moment, old Moosey. I know that you've played with obviously like a lot of players, a lot of really great players. And we've got a question from one of the great men, Corey Oates. We've actually got 2 questions, but we'll play the first one.
G'day, Sammy, mate. Got a couple questions. I'd love to sort of know, out of all the tours and teams you were a part of, which one was your favourite? Which one was your best tour?
One of the great men, Corey Oates.
Gary, thanks for the question, Gary.
Yeah, man.
I was a part of a lot of great teams over a lot of great years, actually. So blessed to be a part of a State of Origin squad that was so successful. It'll probably never happen again. 8 series in a row. And a lot of people look at that dominance and go, Queensland were just so much better. But if you look at the games, the average winning margin was fairly low.
Yeah, man.
Like 4 points.
Yeah, man.
There was only a few blowout games both ways. So there was one time where, they put a bit of a handy score on us, and we had a cracker of a game at Suncorp once, and that's when JT was getting lippy. So that's when we played well.
Yeah.
But I still can't go past. It kind of people get confused about it here, especially in Queensland, because we put so much emphasis on playing for Queensland, and maybe that's why we get it. But playing for Australia is the pinnacle of our game. Representing your country is the biggest thing ever. So the World Cup tour, we spent about almost 8 weeks over in the UK. Was incredible. Just had the birth of my oldest daughter that year, 2013. Gracie was, I'm going to have to do my maths quick, but anyway, she was about 8 months. That was her kind of first overseas trip.
Wow, man.
So
learning on the fly.
My wife, amazing to bring Gracie over for the last kind of 2 weeks of the tour. She bring her mother as well just to kind of help her out. But that was an amazing tour, and just created so many amazing memories. Some of the bus trips. There is a video. Someone had tagged me in once of us playing cards at the back of the bus. And people ask me all the time, what's the biggest thing you miss about playing footy? I said actually playing cards.
Yeah.
Super competitive.
Yeah.
I can't even play Uno with my daughters because
Really?
I'm all up in their face.
I wonder if that trait is going to get passed down to them as well.
I think it is.
100%.
Yeah. It is for sure. But that 2013 World Cup tour in the UK was amazing and incredible. The last game we played, we were playing at the semi-final actually played at Wembley. We played against Fiji, but England played New Zealand. And we had it on the TV in the change rooms, and we're like, all right, boys, we've got to get out of here. We've got to do a job on Fiji, but we're playing England next week. Like, it's going to be absolutely awesome playing England at Old Trafford in the final. Turn the TV off, and then that's the game SJ comes out, and he brains it the last 10 minutes.
No way.
And he wins it for New Zealand, and they get into the final, and then we play against New Zealand at Old Trafford, and we were on anyway. We were going to beat them, and I think, in all honesty, Andrew Fafita was drunk before we even left the field.
yeah.
It's like we were shaking up the bottles, but he
Everyone
was
was
drinking. I was
having
like, bruh, that's for shaking.
yeah, come on, pull it in, man.
Yeah,
Pull
it's
it
for
in.
shaking, not for taking. But we had a really good night after that, and it was just it was a big build up to it. We did about a week and a half training here in Australia before we went over there, and then 8-week tour. And I was rooming with JT the whole time, and we just had a blast.
Second part of the question from our good friend Corey.
He actually needs to practice his interviewing skills.
You might have always thought about asking some players is what was actually the best part of playing rugby league professionally? And then, mate, there's another question. You can just let me know, just through text or on the podcast. But mate, who was your favourite winger? You don't have to say it out loud to people. You just tell me. But
yeah, take that as you want.
Well, all I know is Corey's going to work on radio next year. He's going to have to get a lot better if that's his interviewing style.
He's learning, man. He's learning. He's fresh off the boat.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah.
See, I've even forgotten the question he's asked now. That's how terrible it was. But
I can't even remember the question either. It was around your favourite moment in the NRL. Or what was your favourite time? What was your favourite thing about being a rugby league player?
It's kind of hard to say. Your why changes when you play. From the start of your career to the end of your career. So, my why as a young fella coming into first grade, there might have been a little bit of ego, there might have been a chip on my shoulder, and a little bit of just prove myself to some people. And then my goals and my then what I wanted to do once I'd started playing first grade had kind of changed. So my reason why was I wanted to win a World Cup, I wanted to win a premiership, I wanted to captain the Broncos. They were all my reasons why. And then, mid-career, you get married, you settle down, you have kids. And my why was my kids then. I wanted to make them proud. I wanted to leave a legacy that they could, look back on one day and go, oh, geez, my dad actually was a pretty good footy player. He told me for all these years. But it's hard at the moment. I need to clear or delete the internet because half of the things if you Google me are just stupid things.
It's so fun.
My highlight reels.
It's so fun, man.
I want someone to do like a proper highlight reel of me, please, with some of the good things I did in the game.
Yeah.
Because I used to love running, taking that first hit up. I used to, some of I thought I had good tackle technique. I used to run some really good lines. Like, where are those highlights? It's just me packing into opposition scrums.
Or twerking.
Yeah. It's just like, or interviews after a game in my budgie smugglers. So it's just like, it's really hard for kids to actually see, like, I'm just putting it out there, not tooting my own horn. I was a pretty good player.
That's good, mate. We're going to find some footage. We'll dig some up for you.
Thank you. Could the RLPA do that for me, please?
We'll get our media guys onto it to do a little montage.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then wingers, the best winger Corey asked for, I don't think it's him.
RIP. See you, mate. Who are you thinking?
It's really hard to say, actually, but I think I loved playing with the wingers that could finish. I think Darius Boyd on the wing is fantastic, especially for Queensland. Jharal Yow Yeh was a guy that could find the try line. Jordan Kahu was brilliant as well, a guy that put his body in the line. Where Oatesy was good as a winger was those tough carries out of trouble, and that was our. We used to have a bit of a saying when he was out there, lean into him, Gary, because he used to have this forward lean when he ran. But as a front rower, and you've pretended to put kick pressure on just so you could get back and tackle 2 or maybe tackle 3. It was always good seeing him just trucking it in, and a lot of the times he bent the line or made a half break. You decide, it's a good start to the set if he's taken that second hit up. So he was all right. And he keeps on ringing me and asking me for different advice and stuff.
What, on the radio advice now?
Well, he did, yeah. He's asked me a little bit of radio advice, and I'm happy to help him out. And that's the beauty of the relationships that you build as well. So some of the best things that you get out of rugby league are the mateships and the friendships.
100%.
And they'll continue forever, and that you've gone through some hard times, especially the guys you play club footy week in and week out with. You know how hard you've pushed yourself through pre-season. You know how hard the seasons are. And you know and understand some of the injuries some of these guys have gone through too. So it doesn't matter who you are or where you are in your life or in the world, you've always got that bond.
You mentioned connection there. We're doing this podcast like on behalf of the RLPA. We've started taking over the Pass Player and Transition program last year, which we're building out, and we've had you along to a couple of events. You mentioned Jharal actually, and we've got a question from our good mate Jharal.
How many questions you got recorded, mate?
Hello, my name is Jharal Yow Yeh. This question is for Samuel Arthur Thaiday. Sam, long-time listener, first-time caller. I just want to know, it's a two-part question. How was your transition from the game of rugby league, for being in it for so long, into the world without playing footy? Second part of the question is 3 people you would love to have dinner with that are dead or alive. Thank you. Big fan.
He's one of the greatest. Lots of love for Jharal. I think the first part of the question is the transition out, because obviously we're here talking about Pass Play and Transition program, right? Especially, I would really love to know, and Jharal would obviously love to know as well. What did that look like? Like, what did the first sort of year or two look like? You coming out, obviously, you had an incredible career, to making your way into the real world.
Yeah, actually, it was good to be a part of Jharal's transition out of footy. He really struggled, actually, and his was more of a drawn out process because he'd suffered the injury and he tried his ass off to get back and play footy, and he did. He got out there on the field and played again, which was remarkable. When a doctor had told him at one point in time that if he wasn't a professional rugby league player and if he was in a car accident, they would have opted to amputate his leg.
Wow.
And then also then told you'll probably never run again either. He's done more than that, which is absolutely incredible. And I say it was a drawn-out process because he was contracted with the Broncos and things had kind of changed at that point in time where the club didn't have to pay him out or even help him out if they didn't want to, and the Broncos did. So we'll give him, 8 out of 10 for that. And he had to work at the club, and he did for a long period of time. And then it got a little bit stale and stagnant for him. There wasn't any growth for him in that, and he had to kind of leave and get out and do a few different things. And now he's back and doing some student development stuff, which I think he's brilliant at. Yeah. So it was great to be there for him, to help him, because he went through some real tough times to the point of, especially through his injury as well, abusing prescription drugs, even to the point where he almost took his own life. So, so happy to be there for, again, a teammate, because they're always going to be teammates forever, and happy to help him transition out of footy and then come back again, which was great. But for myself, it was from the age of, 14, 15, when you set your sights on becoming a professional rugby league player, it's your focus. And to say that I really applied myself at school when it came to schoolwork, I didn't. But if it was a sporting program or something at school, I was 100% locked in, to make sure that I was ticking every box to get that professional contract to play professional rugby league. And then moving down to Brisbane as a young kid, and then being in the game for 16 years as a professional, you focus so much of your life and your identity to being a rugby league player, and you kind of struggle with that when you leave. It's like, who am I without rugby league? It's almost a mask that you've hidden behind for many, many years. It's been a great mask to wear. Or a hat. I'm a hat man. I like wearing hats. So, there was a great hat to wear. But I also then had to realize that I've got many different hats. I've got the hat of being a husband. I've got the hat of being a dad. The hat now of being, working with Channel 9, the hat that I have with the Broncos and part of their community program and stuff like that. I had to realize that I was and I had the ability to be more than just a rugby league player.
Do you learn that over time though? Because
yeah,
that's got to be
it doesn't
a time
come
thing.
like that.
Because I imagine like we have these conversations. I'm sure you probably had a lot of conversations with guys who have recently come out of the NRL, right? Like Oatesy, perfect example.
Yeah.
Is it a matter of time just like going through it and you've got to go through it? Because you would have been telling them like, oh, it's the identity piece. Like you can wear so many different hats and you are so much more than a football player.
Yeah.
Are these conversations that you're having with them?
Yeah. I always try and come up with like little different metaphors for things in life. And I think we're all kind of ships at the end of the day. And we've been in our rugby league career. We've been on a yacht in our rugby league career.
It's a beautiful yacht,
and
man.
we have been on this yacht. We've been going through the Greek islands, and it is amazing. But we can't be in the yacht anymore. We're in a shipping container now. We're a big boat, and we've got shipping containers all over us, and we have to go through some heavy seas.
Yeah.
But you always got to know that you can always come back to port. You can always come back to port. You can always reset. And I think that you always need to continue to do things. You still need to go out to sea. You still need to go through some rough times and some tough times, but there's always a safe port that you can pull into to reset, restock, get the barnacles off, and go again. But you got to keep on moving. You got to keep on doing things. And the conversations I'm having with guys like your Oatsies that are out, I said to him recently, mate, you're gonna have all these opportunities that come your way. And I said, it's going to be overwhelming and it's going to be hectic, but say yes to as many as you can. Find out and figure out what you want to do. Because I always say, I still don't know what I want to do. You know, I'll figure that out when I grow up, and that's a long time for me.
Yeah.
But for the time being, I know that I finished. I started doing some radio stuff. Thank you to the big C, COVID. It wrecked that for me, but I did it. I enjoyed it. If the opportunity comes up to do it again, I know what I'm doing now. I've done the podcast thing. I've really enjoyed doing podcasts as well, talking to different people and hearing their stories. I think we are all storytellers, and I think the more we share our stories, the better off we all are. But I had to say yes to a lot of things to figure out what I wanted to say no to.
Yeah.
And Corey will go through, the highs and lows over the next few years of that. But, he knows he's got my phone number, and if he wants to chat, and there's a lot more support there for that. And I think the hardest thing, and I see what the RLPA are doing now, and what is brilliant, is that there is a support network there. I think when I finished I probably realised that at the end of the day, you're just a product. You are a product. You come in and they go, congratulations, Sam Thaiday. You are player 128 of the Brisbane Broncos. Well done. Congratulations. And as long as as quick as you find out and figure out that that's all you are at the end of the day, just a number, the quicker you kind of start looking after yourself a little bit more, making sure you're putting things in place to make sure that this is a small period of your life. Like, I want to live to 120. Like, I'm not even... All right, quick maths.
Are we halfway through? We're not halfway through.
Wow.
Easy, man. That was cheap. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry, man.
That's why I went and had a shave today to get rid of the grey.
You are looking great, mate. We're not even a quarter of the way through, bro.
Yeah. But, the faster you figure that out, the more you start putting things in place to look after yourself forever. You can't... being a rugby league player, it pays for a lifestyle. It doesn't pay for a lifetime. And it's about trying to make sure that, why can't I use rugby league as a springboard to then be a lifetime of opportunities that are going to come your way.
Yeah, I love that piece, especially that last bit. And talking to a lot of players, I think the awareness piece is probably huge for them. And someone told me this analogy where it's like playing rugby league, it's like you climb to the top of the mountain and you're at the top of this mountain, and everyone thinks that when you retire, you're just going to jump across to the next mountain, whether that being financially, status, job security, family, the whole thing. Whereas in reality, you actually have to climb back down the mountain.
Yeah.
And guess what? You'll climb up the second mountain twice as fast because you've got all the opportunities and all the learnings from the first mountain. And so when I heard that, I was like, that just makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you think about it in that sense of even a first grader coming into first grade. So you, as a kid, you start grade 8 and your high school journey is there and you're trying to make sure that you play for the first team and you're making all these rep teams, and then you come to a first grade, you've got to climb down the mountain and you've got to start that mountain again.
Yeah.
And again, the learnings, like you said, are only going to help you get there. And it's about, and a small part of me is the reason why I wanted to stay at the Broncos for such a long period of time and stay there for my whole career is because I knew the opportunities that were going to come afterwards. And I kind of knew that midway through my career, and the opportunities came for, and other clubs were knocking on the door, throwing a lot more money. I was going to say 2008, 9, 10, 11, I would say kind of peak when I was at my best in my career, that middle part of my career, playing really good and consistent footy, Dalian back row of the year, 2 years in a row, kind of like killing it. And I knew at that point if people were going to come knocking on the door, but, at some point in time I would have to leave the game. But the Broncos are where they are great from a commercial point of view is they've got big time sponsors on board. They've got some great mentors in and around the club as well. If I stayed at one club for a long period of time, I can get that money when I finish.
Yeah.
So when I finished, I could now go to the sponsors of the club and go, hey, you know how you wanted to do some work with me, 4 years ago? I'm ready to go now.
Yeah.
And I can actually be paid for it. And I'm not just coming under the Broncos banner anymore. I'm Sam Thaiday, former Brisbane Broncos player. And, we're still aligned with the brands and, the opportunities are there to make some money when I finish.
And I think that's such a good learning for anyone who's either still in professional sport and coming out. It's like your brand is so important. And like you mentioned before, you do have a lot of support there. Like you mentioned the RLPA, and I'm keen to talk to you about how that's changed over time, because it's obviously evolved, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. How have you seen the RLPA changed over time in relation with the NRL from when you first started to where we are now?
Yeah, well, I was there at the birth of it, really, and when they first came in and were fighting for a few rights for us as players in making sure the CBA was done right and players were getting paid in that way. Where I see it evolving and getting so much better now is literally that retirement piece, that transition piece. The spending a week in Sydney, the year that you retire, spending a week, that grand final week, going through different workshops, preparing you, and it's not that they can prepare you for everything that's going to happen when you retire, but you get a little cheat sheet at the end of the day. You still have to go through it, but at least you know what's coming. I think that's brilliant. I think the connection piece is probably the biggest thing. So the golf days, the workouts, again, one of Rachel's favourite quotes is, rest is rust, motion is lotion. You got to keep moving. And like for such a long period of time, when I first finished, I was like, babe, I've been working out for 16 years hard. I'm just going to kick the feet up and relax. I don't want to do anything. And, then comes excess weight, then comes overeating, then comes, maybe abusing alcohol and other substances as well. And then you're chasing your tail. You're behind the 8 ball massively. So, I think that whole connection piece of I'm a team player.
Yeah.
I was never one of those guys who could individually wake up in the morning. I wasn't wired that way to go, all right, Sam, you need to go do a 5K run because it's going to make you feel better. I don't have that in me. But if I can meet 10 guys who I played footy with or footy against at the gym and we go through a session together, how good's that? Bit of smack talk.
Bit of boxing.
Yeah. Bit of boxing, coffee catch up after, chatting about what's going on in everyone's lives.
What do you think it is about it, because obviously like when we finished up, it was almost just like, respectfully, it was kind of like your number 128.
See ya.
Go figure it out. And
Yeah.
and I do want to zoom in on your grand final weekend when you finished, because I heard that was an incredible workshop that you did. But what is it about the connection piece? Is it just a matter of, I don't know, catching up with old teammates? Is it sharing lived experience of how others are transitioned? Like, what is it for you that you like? Because you've been to a bunch. Like, you went to the Nines competition that we did at the start of this year, in the boxing, the Keep Fit, Keep Connected. Like, you're one of those guys who lean into this space. So what does it do for you? Like, why do you come?
Well, like I said, I'm a team player. I've always been a team player. I've always done something with the team, and the ability to catch up with old teammates is huge, because in all honesty, we all get caught up and we all think we're so bloody busy with our own lives. We're not really, but like, it's comfortable just doing your own shit and going about your own life. But sometimes you don't know what other people are going through unless you're connecting and you're actually catching up. And like, even to the point, the last kind of couple of years, I've been playing footy at a club level. Played for the Sanford Stags, played for West Arana. The reason why I jumped ship and the Stags boys weren't happy about it, but it was because I had the opportunity to be coached by Jharal, and Josh Hoffman's playing, and we got Corbin Sims playing as well, and our ability to give back as well. So we're not the coaches, but at a training session, we're giving our opinions, we're helping people out, we're going through some tackle technique stuff. That ability to give back to a game that's given us so much is huge. I've played in a few Legends of League games, which has been great. So, where I'm at with that is I'm trying to get guys who I retired with to come and play in those games. So, I might play a game. I'm playing with Neville Costigan, Tom Leroy Lars, Ben Hennett, Jordan Carhu, Antonio Winterstein, Alex Glenn. I get to have a run around with those guys, and it's a chance for a couple of days of catching up and how you going. Played in the Nines. The Nines was brilliant. I absolutely had a ball. We nicknamed ourselves the Fossils.
Yeah, we had a couple big boys there, man.
Yeah, we were a team full of forwards playing in a Nines tournament.
We got our recruitment on earlier this year.
Yeah. So I hope that it's sorted for the next time around. We need some people with some genuine pace and some ball skills. But we've all come through playing team sport for such a long period of time. We need a team. We have our own little teams at home with our families and stuff like that. And it's brilliant. But there's something about, I don't know, it's funny. I was, my daughter is a dancer, and I was like rubbing deep heat on her calves the other day because she just had her dancing. I was just like, I just love that smell.
It's the smell of the footy sheds.
There's something about deep heat and farts that just kind of, smell like home. Like weird stuff like that. I go away on holidays and I play cards with my daughters, and I teach them a card game that we used to play at the Bronx all the time, 3 up, 3 down. They love the game now. So I love it for that connection piece, the opportunity to catch up, and then it's the storytelling, because we're all storytellers. That's some ancient shit. There was people painting on caves, they're telling stories. People sitting around a campfire telling stories. So it's been happening for millions of years. There must be something about it, because we're still doing it we're doing it right now.
And it's so fun when you can get in that space when everyone's there and knocking around, especially when you've got such a great history where you're playing week in, week out. You mentioned that you bring a lot of the boys along. Do you feel like some guys need that little push to get them over the line because they're just stuck in their ways?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we all get caught up in our own shit. We all get in a comfort zone, and you can kind of get in that groove sometimes where, it's easier to sleep in rather than, waking up at 6 and I don't know what time we started our boxing class.
Depends,
Anyway, we were there early and it was still dark. It was it would have been so much easier to sleep in, but Jack Reed drove from the Sunshine Coast.
Mate.
We had some guys drive up from the Gold Coast to come to this boxing session. So it shows you put these things on, and through encouragement and teamwork, people will show up. I think I think of a funny story. Justin Hodges was the king of encouragement.
Really?
So what Hodjo would do, anytime we would run the gap, you would always see Hodjo, and I don't know if you ever noticed this or not, but this is why he's the king of encouragement, is Hodjo would be at the back running with the young fellas, encouraging him up the hill. But it's just because he was unfit.
yeah. He's the self-proclaimed encouragement.
Yeah. So I'm the same when it comes to these trainings. I'm not the fittest at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be the cheerleader. I'm happy to be the
100%.
encouragement guy.
And I feel like we need those type of people in our circles, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, before we do finish up, I do quickly want to zoom in on the grand final weekend because while I wasn't there, it was before my time. I heard like it was you did a really great yarning circle almost, where a lot of the past players, they came in and they were sharing their experiences where they might have been out of the game for 12 months or they might have just recently retired that year. What did that do for you? And I guess could you sort of give us a little example of like what that session looked like?
Again, I always try to break things down like a footy player at the end of the day because it's what I know and understand. But it was an opportunity to have a bit of a game plan going forward, knowing and understanding that certain things were going to come your way, certain things are going to be hard, certain things are going to be great. There's going to be a lot of opportunities that will open themselves up when you retire. So it was really good just to listen to other people's stories of triumph, stories of hardship, and I just think at the end of the day, showing any type of vulnerability, whether it's, it's not easy for anyone really to get up and talk and share their own story, but it helps out so much, and sometimes I don't think players realise that. So, I really love that. We did a couples session as well, where we worked on, love languages. Also, the opportunity for our wives and partners to know, hey, this is what's going to happen. Like, you're going to have a grumpy ass retired rugby league player on your hands. They're going to be emotional. They're going to be angry. They're going to want to do more things. They might want to go skiing. They might want to have a beer on a Wednesday. They might want to do all these things that they might want to get a motorbike.
RIP. We don't have the motorbike anymore.
But just preparing them as well, because they're a huge part of your support network and they're a huge part of your team now going forward. And you want to make sure that they're prepared. They've got the game plan as well.
Matt, I think that was beautiful. Like when we did the grand final this year, it was a really great retiring crew this year. And when we said,
what I say too, I like that you allow players that may have retired overseas in the UK come back and do it as well. Because I think previously they've kind of missed out, and now they get the opportunity to come back. Yeah, they may not have retired in 2014, 2024, but just the ability to come and do the week and get their roses as well.
Mate, if they've played over 100 games, naturally come in. And when we do, like, obviously it's a whole weekend like of for festivities and a junket and the whole thing. But what we do like those events and the reunion events, all the other players can come in. Like any retirees from that weekend can come in from the last 10, 20 years. They all come in. I mean, we're at Cargo Bar in Sydney. It was like 100 players, boys just getting on the piss. And it was great because it was a great connection event. But circling back to that workshop, the ones that we did this year, the partners were so great because we had the boys there, but we also had the partners there. And now players, like, they've got access to so much more than what they previously did since we took it over, or since the RLPA took over all the things past played, like psychological help, career coaching, mental health plans. They can talk to a psych. We're building out a medical referral network, like education grants. So like, what do I want to do in the next 3 years? Like I've got that support network. And probably the biggest thing is what you said, the connection piece and someone to lean on. Like they've got guys, Joey and myself, where you can call us anytime, or call someone or talk to someone at one of these connection events. And that's why I love that. Like, to be honest, and it's cool because we get, like, a lot of our mates are retiring now. So we get to knock around with them, which is even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the golf day. Like we did a golf day on the weekend. It was like 72 players just coming in for a really great connection event. And we got rained out. We played like 6 or 9 holes, man. But we were back in the clubhouse. We did all the prizes. It was awesome. And we had a drink and then we went out afterwards.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a beautiful thing, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Parting thoughts, mate. What do you think is your best advice that you could pass on to any retiring player coming out of the game?
Well, for players still playing in the game at the moment, I would tell them to do some education pieces. I would love I would love every player to do a small business course while they're playing, and maybe even like a little fitness course as well. So knowing and understanding what you can do, how to put a program together so you can still train when you finish is brilliant. And then maybe a small business course while you're playing, and even a small marketing course as well, because you got to realize and understand that when you finish playing footy, you're still a product. And you need to sell yourself as if you're a product. Retiring players, they need to know and understand they have so many transferable skills from rugby league into the real world. And there's a lot of businesses out there that would love your knowledge. They pay people like thousands and thousands of dollars to come in and run workshops around resilience, around teamwork, around leadership. And these are all things that you can share, even just through stories of rugby league. I've done one recently where I spoke about the different types of leaders that I had. We had talkers, we had walkers, and we had superheroes. The talkers were the guys that had some really cool words that motivated you. Cam Smith would get us before a state of origin. We'd be in a huddle before Mal said, all right, we've got to get out there on the field. Cam Smith would always have the last words, and whatever Cam said, I was ready to run through a wall. The walkers, the people that did, the Shane Webkes, you pull up to the car park at the Broncos and his car's already there, and he's come back from a 5K run before we've even trained on the field. He was a walker. He got the keys to the gap so he could run up and down those hills to make sure that when we ran it on Sunday, he was the guy out the front leading. Wow. Your superheroes were the guys that, your Wayne Bennett's, your Darren Lockyer's, the guys you looked up to, and you just wanted to do whatever they told you to do. So, again, I've just shared 3 simple little things, but I've told you about 3 different leadership styles. So what are you in your business? What are you as a CEO of your business? Are you a walker? Are you a talker? Or are you a superhero? And what do you want to be? And you can pick from all 3 if you want. If you want to be a collective of all, you make sure you nail those things. So for retiring players, so many football stories that can help you out in whatever you want to do going forward. Like embrace a roller coaster. If you've ever been on a roller coaster, the hardest part is sitting down and clipping the seatbelt on. There's a few ups and downs, but when you hop off, far out, that adrenaline, that courses through you. You want to go and do it again. It's weird that you want to jump back on a roller coaster again, but I think very, very similar to a football season. You've got to go through pre-season before you can have the highs of a season. And then, and then when the season finishes again, you have a little bit of a break. And then you got to go through a pre-season again. You'll have many pre-seasons throughout your life going forward where it's hard work and you feel like you're pushing shit uphill. But your glory days will come when you're out there and you're really, enjoying your footy and you're playing. You might win some premierships, in that time, but if you embrace your life like a footy season going forward, it'll be a lot of fun.
Man, I absolutely love that. Bro, thank you so much for coming on. I value your time. I'm grateful that you came on. I think there's so many beautiful golden nuggets in there, man. So thank you very much.
A lot of shit talk.
There was a bit in there as well. Thanks, bro.